Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I know it's mid-March, but I'm finally getting around to doing my February reading wrap-up. It was an excellent month in February. I ended up reading 11 books. All of them are nonfiction, so I hope you guys find some books that you might be interested in, or just look forward to these videos because I have so much fun making them, and I'm just glad I'm finally getting to it. I'm going to do this in 3 parts. I'm going to start with my favorite to my least favorite, and then I'm going to do a section for my rereads because I find myself doing a lot of rereads this year, so that's been pretty fun and exciting. So with that being all said, let's dive right into my favorite books. February was African American Heritage Month, and I ended up reading several good books that I really enjoyed, and they ended up being on my top favorites list, so that was pretty cool, and I'm really happy about that. With these books in particular, they would have been my favorites either way because I love them that much. And yeah, let's just dive right in. So number 1 on my February TBR, or my February favorites in general, like all the books I read in February, that pick goes to Original Sins: The Miseducation of Black and Native Children and the Construction of American Racism by Eve L. Ewing. This book was absolutely amazing. It's definitely one that's needed, I believe, because when we think about school systems, we think about equal opportunity, equal education and stuff, but reality tells us something completely different, and that's schools actually perpetuate racism. And according to the dust jacket here, in Original Sins, Ewing demonstrates that our schools were historically envisioned to propagate the myth of white intellectual superiority to civilize Native students and prepare Black students for menial labor. She argues that these dynamics persist under the radar in standardized testing, academic training, disciplinary policies, and uneven access to resources. I just love this book. It was one that was on my anticipated reads for 2025, so it was definitely excellent. I did highlight and tab in this, or at least highlight this book, and there's one part in particular that stood out the most, and I'm just gonna here's the highlighting. I made a little notation there, and I'm just gonna quote one of it. One of those parts is that it says how narratives about Native people are historized in our classrooms in ways that ultimately serve a settler colonial fantasy, and these assignments construct a Native world that exists exclusively in the past tense, how the Native Americans lived. And that just really stuck out to me because I remember growing up and being just absolutely hating how my Native American information was taught in schools. It really bugged the heck out of me. Natives were treated as relics of the past and people that belong in museums like Neanderthals and such, and that just, it irritated me to no end. But being a kid, I had no voice, so I couldn't really speak up about it, and I didn't know much either because, again, what was taught wasn't really accurate either, so I didn't have all the correct information. But I would have loved had they treated Native Americans as people that are currently thriving in communities and their success stories, but that's just not the way it was. And this book does an excellent job at talking about African Americans as well as Native Americans and just how perpetually racist the school systems are. So I highly recommend this one. And this book, I did give it a 5-star. My second favorite book of February was one that I ended up doing a buddy read because somebody online was interested, so that was pretty fun. And that is The Disordered Cosmos: A Journey into Dark Matter, Space-Time, and Dreams Deferred by Chandra Prescott Weinstein. This book was definitely out of my wheelhouse. I'm not one for science books, but I had so much fun with this one. As you can see, I tabbed it, I highlighted, annotated, made all kinds of notes. And according to the back here, in The Disordered Cosmos, Dr. Chandra Prescott Weinstein shares her love of physics, from the physics of melanin skin to the latest theories of dark matter, along with a perspective informed by history, politics, and wisdom of Star Trek. So that was pretty cool. her science is kind of complicated, so like there was a lot I had to look up, but I always get the most excitement out of my books when I'm looking things up. I just find so much joy in that. And then, let's see. Here is my annotating key. Here's my tabs. I kept this real basic. Things I liked or that I found relatable were in blue. Just random notes. The science is in this white tab, and then politics is in green. And that's kind of what threw me off a little bit about this book, is that there was way too much politics for my taste. I would have rather she stuck to the science, but given her own experiences as an African American, it made sense that she would include a lot of politics. So in that sense, I didn't mind, and it actually worked well with the story. But definitely a good book. And again, with the science information, I had to look it up, so that was pretty fun to do. This book, I ended up giving a 4-star. I absolutely loved it, and it was definitely one that was surprising, so that was pretty cool. My third favorite book in February was also one that was surprising. I'm not big on memoirs, but this book in particular caught my attention, and that is called Gather Me, a memoir in praise of the books that saved me by Gloria Edom. This book, like, I absolutely devoured. This book is a memoir about a woman's experiences, like how reading helped her in her life, and me being the avid reader that I am, and how like books have helped me throughout my journey. I could relate to a lot of it. This one I tabbed a little bit, not much, but just certain things here and there. The yellow tabs were things I liked, purple were things I related to, which is pretty cool, and then the red was things I deemed very important. And so I do have a couple of those tabs in here. And then I'm just going to pinpoint something here. Let's see. Let me find the right tab for it. Well, basically, like, in one of the sections that I found really relatable was how the author, like, got all excited about reading a Maya Angelou book in her class, because she never really read many authors that were black or, like, other BIPOC authors in school, and I found that so relatable. I can remember every book that I read from pretty much middle school all the way up until college, and not once did I read any indigenous authors, not once did I read any Latino authors. I only read 3 African American authors, and so like the rest were like the typical white authors, typical classics and everything. So as a BIPOC person, like, I could not connect to most of the stories. They were good, don't get me wrong, but as a person of color, I just couldn't relate. And so, like, she describes, like, feeling left out and just kind of, like, feeling othered. And that's how I often felt. It wasn't until college when a professor, like, on her off time gave me a list of Native American authors, which I lost over time and I wish I still had, but I do still have some of the books that I had gotten from that list, so that's been pretty cool. And I love the author's journey about how books helped her in life, and it's just something I really connected to. I gave this one a 4-star. The next is a book that was on my TBR last year, but I wanted to wait for the paperback edition, and so it finally came out. The book is called The Abduction of Betty and Barney Hill, Alien Encounters, Civil Rights, and the New Age in America by Matthew Bowman. This book is so fun. Like, I'm a strong believer in, like, aliens and UFOs and stuff like that, but when it comes to alien abductions, I'm kind of a skeptic, but that, like, I don't really mind because the author, like, he's also a skeptic too, so I appreciated his perspective and his point of view. Basically, the story is about the famed case in the 1960s of Betty and Barney Hill. They were a biracial couple who claimed that they were abducted by aliens. He believes something happened to him, and but he doesn't believe that they were taken by aliens. But Betty and Barney Hill believe that, like, until their deathbeds, that they were taken by aliens. So who knows what happened, like, that night on that hill? No one really knows. And the author, like, just goes into the civil rights aspect. Because they were a biracial couple, there was, like, a lot of red tape. It was seen as, like, wrong for a black man to be with a white woman and such. So there was a lot of political unrest with the civil rights in the 1960s, and he goes into that information, which is pretty fun. Well, not fun, but like, very interesting and fascinating. So definitely recommend this one. And again, he does he doesn't believe that they were abducted by aliens. So whether you believe in alien abductions, I guess that's your take and whatnot. But definitely a fun read if you're into like the civil rights movement, and if you want to just learn more about Betty and Barney Hill's story. So next is a gift that I got for like Valentine's, also called Palentine's, for friends and such. And so this book is like very unexpected, but it was definitely on my wish list. And that is Joan of Arc: A History by Helen Castor. This book is very fascinating. It's basically the history of Joan of Arc. Helen is a historian, and she offers a riveting life of Joan of Arc. Instead of the icon, she gives us a living, breathing young woman, a roaring girl fighting the English and taking sides in a bloody civil war that was tearing apart 15th century France. The history is very fascinating, and it gets into a lot of English history. So that was definitely something new for me, because I don't really read that much history outside of the United States, even though like I want to, because there's so much of it. But the story of, or at least like the history of Joan doesn't get through until like halfway through the book. So there's just like so much to pack in this book, and it's one I'm grateful for, because like I have a collection of Joan of Arc books. She's just definitely one of my favorite heroines. This book I rated a 4-star. Is really enjoyable. The next book is one that was anticipated for 2025, and that is More Than a Doll: How Creating a Sports Doll Turned into a Fight to End Gender Stereotypes by Jodie Bondi Nordgaard. This book is very interesting. It talks about like the stereotypes and the patriarchy when it comes to girl toys, specifically like Barbies, those Bratz dolls that are like very provocative, and how like even though men say that they're designing dolls for girls and everything, it's more towards like disgusting fantasies and stuff. So this person, like this author, she creates a doll and just tries to give girls more of a positive outlook. So it's very interesting. It talks about like her fights with the toy industry, and like the roadblocks, or she came to realize the roadblocks of success weren't only reluctant toy buyers, but a patriarchal culture that perpetuates gender roles and sexism. More Than a Doll is about her mission to break gender stereotypes and challenge the status quo. So this was definitely an interesting read. It's a quick read, very like easy paced. So 4-star on this one. Next is a book that I've had on my shelf since last year. I finally got to it. It's Black History Month and such. And so I have Say Their Names: How Black Lives Came to Matter in America by Curtis Bunn, Michael C. Cotman, Patrice Gaines, Nick Charles, and Keith Harrison. This book is very difficult to read. It talks about like, for many, reading from the back here, for many, the weeks of protests in the summer of 2020 began with the horrific 9 minutes and 29 seconds when police officer Derek Chauvin killed George Floyd on camera, and it ended with the sweeping federal, state, and interpersonal changes that followed. It is a simple story wherein white America finally witnessed enough brutality to move their collective consciousness. And so it's a very interesting read. It's very difficult to read because of the subject matter, but one I highly recommend as well. And this book, I did give it a 4-star. Moving down the list to my 3-star reads, for my first 3-star read, I have Eruption: The Untold Story of Mount St. Helens by Steve Olson. This book I had high expectations for, but it fell short. The author, like, even though he talks about the eruption of Mount St. Helens in 1980, he talked mainly about the people that were around and stuff. There wasn't much to the eruption or like the science, and I only found myself getting interested until I guess after chapter 5 and chapter 6, because that's when like he talks about the destruction, and the rest was just kind of boring because like I really didn't have an interest in like people involved and like their jobs and such. So it was kind of dry in that sense, and that was a total letdown, unfortunately, but that's just the way it turned out for me. And yeah, this was a 3-star. And my final 3-star was The Coming Global Superstorm by Art Bell and Whitley Strieber. This is the nonfiction book that the movie The Day After Tomorrow was based on, and I read The Day After Tomorrow novelization in January, which was a okay read. This one I had given it a 3-star in January as well. But this was a nonfiction version. It's about the science and stuff, and it's a good book. But considering it was written in 1999, it's very outdated, and a lot of the science, a lot of the weather stuff has changed over the years. So, but definitely a good one. Like if you are into like past climate fiction or climate nonfiction. So yeah, 3-star on this one. Moving on to my rereads, I first read this particular book in 2023, and it was one of my favorites of that year. Oh, I hadn't gotten around to reading the paperback version, and I've been wanting to. And that is The Rise and Fall of the Dinosaurs, A New History of Their Lost World by Steve Brusatte. This book, I highlighted and tabbed and annotated like crazy. There's just like so much information in this one, and I absolutely love it. Like, Steve does an excellent job at explaining the science in a way that a non-scientific person can understand. Let's see, for my, here are my tabs, and I did like so much in this one. I have things for notes, like the maroon is for notes, the blue is for science, the dark purple is for important information, the light pink is for things I liked, and then the red is for things I found very important. And so as you can see, I tabbed this one like crazy. The stuff in red, like, that I tabbed was the very important stuff, which I found to be he talks about the meteor that hit and destroyed the dinosaurs, which I love, like, apocalyptic stuff like that, and so it was very fascinating information. And overall, this is one of my favorite dinosaur books of all time, and I've been into dinosaurs since I was 4. I blame the Jurassic Park movies, because, like, I was 4 when I saw the first one, and I just fell in love with dinosaurs ever since. So I'm looking forward to the new Jurassic World movie, even though I'm not a Scarlett Johansson fan, but like I'm just like so committed to the franchise and have been like my entire life. So I'm excited for that, and I do want to read more dinosaur books. There's one called Impossible Monsters that I want to get my hands on, and that one's being released in paperback in a few months, so I'm excited for that. And yeah, this was a reread, and it was a 5-star back then in 2023. It still remains a 5-star, which I'm very grateful for, because it's that awesome of a book. I love it. He goes into the history of the dinosaurs, like how the T-Rex became like the top predator, and just the fact that like these creatures existed like millions of years ago is something I can't wrap my head around sometimes. And it's just like, how could creatures like that have existed and stuff? And it's just, I don't know, it's very fascinating stuff. Like, I could fangirl about dinosaurs for a long time, so I think I'll just stop with that for right now. But yeah, 5-star. And my final book is one I read last year, actually, but it came out in paperback this year, so I had to get it. And that is Latino Land, A Portrait of America's Largest and Most and Least Understood Minority by Maria Arana. I gave it a 5-star last year, gave it a 5-star this year, and it's just such a good book about Latino history, because there's so much to it. Hispanics, Mexicans, Cubans, Dominicans, and so forth. Like, you can't really put us in a box, like, even though America tries to, because even though like we're all Latinos, all the cultures are so different. So it's very fascinating information. And I just love like I just love the history of it. So, and I've been wanting to get to more Latino history, because like, given that's part of my culture, I want to learn more about it and such. So, definitely 5-star now, even though like, again, I only read it just last year, but yeah. And that does it for all of my February books. I read so many great books in February, and I was really excited for them. On, March 24th, I'll be doing my April TBR. I've got 4 books planned that I'm going to be doing as priority reads, and then I'll be picking from my wrap TBR, so that'll be fun. I'll do that on video and stuff, so we can, I can open the books together and stuff, so that'll be cool. And then, the 28th is when I'll do my March reading wrap-up, and I've read some amazing books this month that I'm excited to talk about. There's one in particular that I'll probably do a separate video for, just so I can, like, totally fangirl on it, because it ended up being my favorite book of the month, and I am, like, super stoked for it. It's one I absolutely love. So I'll do a separate video for that. Probably next week, I guess. Yeah, this week. So I guess overall I have 3 videos coming up that I can't wait for. And that being said, I guess that about does it. And thanks for watching, you guys. I had so much fun talking about these books, and I hope you guys found some interesting stuff too. Bye.